Welcome to the Kenya Wantam Note to Movement, the KWM podcast. This is where we take a deep dive into crucial insights affecting Kenya. Today, we're doing a really compelling exploration, actually. We're focusing on a specific piece that comes from the Kenya Wantam Note to Movement itself. It's an article titled Ruto's Political Puppet Show How Kenya's Critics Were Bought and Silenced. This was published by Village Action Online, July 9, 2025. So, our mission for this deep dive is pretty straightforward. We want to unpack the claims, the observations, everything laid out in this article. Think of it as a shortcut for you to understand the complex political dynamics it describes. So let's get right into the central mystery. The article kicks off with a question I think many of us have probably thought about. How do these really prominent political critics, people who are once strongly against a leader, suddenly seem to become their biggest supporters, practically overnight? It's a shift we see, right? But the why and the how, that often feels a bit murky. This KWM piece offers a very specific take on that, particularly in the Kenyan context.
Right. And what's really interesting, I think, is that the article doesn't suggest this is just, a natural change of mind or something organic. Not at all. It actually calls this shift a well-calculated move. It even uses the phrase political puppet show.
Mm.
Now, that's a pretty bold statement, isn't it? It suggests something deliberate, strategic, rather than just things falling into place. So our deep dive today is really about peeling back the layers on those claims, looking at the mechanics, the motivations, but always through the lens of this specific KWM article.
Absolutely. And the article, it really highlights this phenomenon it observed. People who were once, quote, fierce critics of William Ruto, people who were very vocal about what the article calls alleged corruption and divisive politics. Well, they've now kind of suddenly become his most loyal supporters. The contrast is really stark.
It is stark. And the article provides a pretty blunt assessment of this. It argues these individuals have, quote, abandoned their principles. Yeah. And even more pointedly, it says they've sold their voices for power. A really crucial point the article makes is that this isn't seen as some naive mistake. It claims they are fully aware of this trade-off. So it's not presented as like a genuine ideological shift. It's framed much more as a calculated, strategic move to maintain relevance, political opportunism, basically. The article suggests they figured out that their influence, maybe even just staying in the game, depends on this new alignment.
Okay, so here's where it gets, I think, really provocative. The article makes this claim about the method behind it all. It says, and I'm quoting directly, Ruto doesn't beg for loyalty, he buys it. That really sets a tone, doesn't it? It points towards a transactional nature in these relationships.
It's definitely a bold claim. And the article gets quite specific about what it sees as the price for this loyalty. It talks about a seat at the table, a slice of power, and the illusion of security. The piece portrays Ruto as, well, a master of this strategy, someone who knows how to use these incentives effectively. It suggests he's skilled at turning these critics into what it terms mere puppets, implying, they're trading their independent voice, maybe their integrity, for comfort, access, a sense of security within the system. This idea of political patronage, where deals matter more than ideology, that's a theme the article keeps coming back to.
And the article really emphasizes how dramatic this change has been. It paints a picture of these individuals before Ruto was in office. It says they were the first to label him corrupt, unfit, and divisive. Their speeches were loud, their opinions sharp. They were actively trying to, frame Ruto negatively in the political narrative. It's almost like the article presents a before and after snapshot, a complete reversal.
Yeah, a total contrast. Because compared to that previous fire, the article now points to, well, silence.
Yeah.
That sharp public criticism, gone, replaced, the piece claims, with praise and flattery. And the article is very clear. This massive shift isn't seen as accidental or just politics as usual. No, it's presented as a conscious strategic decision on their part, driven, it argues, by wanting to keep their position, their influence, in the current setup. More like a capitulation, the article suggests, than any kind of genuine conversion.
So if these individuals have supposedly made this huge shift, how does the article say Ruto sees them now? Are they genuine allies in his eyes, or is it something else?
That's a really key part of the power dynamic the article explores. It suggests Ruto views them not as equals, but more like tools. Yeah, the piece describes them as empty vessels willing to do anything for power, influence, or a mere taste of luxury. They're basically characterized as commodities in this narrative. Their shift, just another transaction.
Yeah.
The article implies that once he gained the presidency, he became, and this is a stark phrase, the ultimate dealer, with their integrity as the price. So it suggests a relationship built purely on utility, not really on respect or shared goals.
Which leads us straight to what the article calls the price of compromise. It basically asserts that these individuals have compromised everything they once claimed to stand for. They've bowed down, it says, to the very system they used to condemn so strongly. It's more than just switching sides.
Right. And the article doesn't mince words about the implications. It calls this not just a betrayal of their followers, it's a betrayal of themselves. That's a really heavy indictment in the source material. It suggests a deep ethical cost. The piece argues they're trading integrity for political survival, choosing comfort and access over sticking to their principles. It implies this was a very conscious choice, giving up the moral high ground for a place at the table. This is where that idea of clientelism, personal gain over public service, really comes through in the article's analysis.
And what's quite striking is the article claims this isn't just about a few isolated cases, a few big names. It broadens the picture quite a bit, saying this forms a whole tangled web of political players, many of whom, it notes, used to be critics. Now, the piece alleges they're all wrapped around his finger, basically operating under his influence.
Yeah, and thinking about the wider impact, the article argues these individuals who maybe built careers claiming to champion the ordinary person have now become, in its view, part of the very system they once fought against. Their voices, once tools for dissent, are now effectively silenced, according to the piece. And that's significant because the implication is instead of holding power accountable, they've become complicit in its failings. The article argues this kind of co-option seriously weakens the checks and balances that are, vital for democracy.
And this all seems to lead up to the article's assessment of what it calls Ruto's masterclass in political manipulation. It suggests his success isn't just about politics as usual, but maybe a deeper understanding of human nature.
Well, the article is pretty blunt about the motivations it assigns to these individuals: money, power, and a taste of the high life. It suggests Ruto essentially made them an offer they couldn't refuse, implying he understood their vulnerabilities, their desires, and the outcome, as the article describes it. They're now his allies. But, and this is crucial, not because they genuinely agree with him now. No, the article contends it's because they've given up on their integrity. They chose personal gain over principle. That's where the puppet show metaphor really hits home, right? It suggests a controlled alignment, not a real partnership.
Okay, before we get into the full consequences of all this, the real fallout for everyday Kenyans according to the article, we want to invite you, our listener, to actually be part of the change. This deep dive, it touches on critical issues, right? And the Kenya Wantam Nutta movement is all about fostering solutions starting from the ground up. So we really encourage you, visit www.wantamnotem.com. Go ahead and create your account. It's your space to start sharing your ideas that can help change your village, your city, your nation. That's www.wantamnotem.com. Please be part of that conversation for Kenya's future. All right, let's bring the focus back now. The consequences. The article calls it the fallout, a system in crisis. What does the KWMP say is the direct impact on the average person when these kinds of shifts allegedly happen?
Well, the conclusion the article draws is pretty stark, pretty sobering, especially for people who might have looked up to these critics. It says these figures, who once promised accountability, have now become part of the problem, unquote. They've, in the article's view, traded their moral ground for a fleeting taste of power, end quote. And in doing that, they've essentially abandoned the very people they once claimed to serve, end quote. The article calls this a tragic irony. Those who fought for change have now, allegedly, become part of the system they opposed. And for the public, this means, well, a lost voice, weaker checks on power, and maybe the issues they cared about aren't being addressed.
So what does the article want you, the listener, to take away from all this? Its message is quite direct, isn't it? The KWM piece basically says, look, the political players you once believed in are now complicit in a corrupt system that continues to fail you. That's a real challenge to perception.
It absolutely is. And it raises a pretty urgent question for citizens, doesn't it? The article warns very strongly, these individuals are no longer your voice, no longer your champions. Why? Because, quote, they've been bought off, silenced. The piece concludes they're just puppets in a political game where power, not principle, is the ultimate prize. And there is a final critical point the KWM article makes. It asserts Ruto doesn't actually need their genuine loyalty. What he needs, it argues, is just their silence. That's enough to maintain his grip on power. This, the article concludes, is the sad reality of Kenya's political game, leaving people to wonder where true advocacy can come from now.
So today, we've really dug into this Kenya Wantam Notam movement article, Ruto's political puppet show.
Okay.
We've unpacked its claims about how critics are allegedly neutralized, how principles are perceived to be abandoned for power, all based on this KWM source. The article definitely paints a vivid and perhaps troubling picture of a political landscape where influence is a commodity and dissent gets muffled.
Yeah, and maybe as we wrap up this deep dive, here's a thought to consider, building on what the KWM article suggests. If those traditional voices of dissent are, as the piece argues, silenced through compromise, through being co-opted, what new ways, what new avenues might emerge for real accountability, for genuine change? And what does that mean for the responsibility of each individual citizen, when the usual channels seem compromised? It certainly pushes us to think beyond the established players.
And we really encourage you to be part of finding those solutions. Please visit www.wantamnotam.com, create your account there, start sharing your ideas that can genuinely help change your village, your city, and the nation. Your voice really does matter, and the Kenya Wantam Notam movement platform is there to help amplify it. Again, that's www.wantamnotam.com. Thank you so much for listening to the Kenya Wantam Notam movement, the KWM podcast. We hope this deep dive gave you some valuable insights into the complex political landscape discussed in the KWM source material. We look forward to our next deep dive.